very warm good afternoon to one and all present here. On behalf of FKCCI, I welcome all of you for this interactive meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Rakshita, Assistant Secretary FKCCI. It is certainly an honor and privilege to be a part of FKCCI and serve as your Master of Ceremony to this event. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let us first welcome Ms. Michelle Wade, Commissioner to South, State Government of Victoria, Australia. I would also like to welcome our President, Dr. C.A.I.S. Prasad Sir, to escort Commissioner to South, State Government of Victoria, Australia. Thank you for joining us, ma'am. Now I would like to welcome our panelists for the day. Mr. Gopi Shankar, Director Trade and Industry, Victorian Government, Trade and Investment Office, Bengaluru. I would like to welcome our Chairperson, Ms. Uma Reddy ma'am, to escort Dr. Gopi Shankar, Director Trade and Industry, Victorian. I welcome you, sir. Mr. Tanapat Sangaroon, Vice Consul, the Ministry of Commerce of Thailand, Thai Trade Center, Mumbai. I would like to welcome you on the stage, sir. Dr. Ganesh Shivkumar, Director, Dr. Ganesh Polyclinic, Guyana, South America. I welcome you on the dais, sir. Ms. Kavitha S., Trade Officer, Ministry of Economy and Industry, Foreign Trade Administration, Israel Consulate General of Israel. I welcome you on the dais, ma'am. I like to request our President to kindly present a token of appreciation to Joseph Abram, Consul for Trade and Economic Affairs. Now I would like to request our President Dr. C.A.I.S. Prasad Sir to please give welcoming and presidential remarks for the opening ceremony.
A very good afternoon. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome the dignitaries of various trade offices. First of all, I would like to welcome Ms. Michael Wade, Commissioner to South, State Government of Victoria, Australia. Welcome you, madam. And also welcome Mr. Gopi Shankar, Director Trade Industry, State Government of Victoria, Australia. I extend warm welcome to Gopi Shankar. And extend warm welcome to Mr. Tanapat, Sangaroon, Vice Consul for Commercial Affairs, Thai Trade Center, Mumbai. Extend warm welcome to you, sir. And I extend warm welcome to Dr. Ganesh Shivkumar, the Director, Dr. Ganesh Polyclinic, Guyana, South America. Extend warm welcome to you. And welcome Ms. Kavitha, Trade Officer, Ministry of Economic and Industry, Foreign Trade Administration, Israel Consulate General of Israel. I extend warm welcome to you. And I welcome the most dynamic chairperson, Srimati Uma Reddy, the past presidents, Phillips Lewis, Bangara sir, and directors of FKCCI and all the participants. I would like to place on record the appreciation to the chairperson, first of its kind when taught that how to penetrate and how to invite the trade office of several countries to make way and also draw their insight and how the Karnataka can continue to grow in exports. And as all of you know that India has been achieved $400 billion of exports as of now. Our Prime Minister of India has a vision of 1 trillion economy of exports out of 5 trillion, and we at FKCCI always would like to and venture into see that how we can create more opportunities and how we can invite the trade offices of various countries and understand after post-COVID what are the challenges and opportunities by which that each one of us can contribute for the economy. I would like to inform that the Government of India has signed comprehensive economic partnership with Australia. Looking for most bilateral trade is the second country. First is UAE, Dubai, and now Australia. So this is the second largest country where the India look forward for partnership and bilateral trade. I am sure that Madam is here will give you a lot of insight and what challenge opportunities and what segment you can get and how we can export further to the Australian country. We will also have the representative from the Thai trade, the Tanapat, Sangaroon Vice Consul of Commercial Affairs will also dwell upon how the bilateral trade can further improve upon, because the India and Thai has lost thousands of years of bilateral cultural and imbalances of various economic factors. So all of you know that the COVID pandemic has brought down the flow of our exports and also the fear whether there is going to be new opportunities and everything. Now thankfully that vaccination has been done for 100 crores population and we are open now for economy, and the Tanapat Sangaroon will give and address all of us what opportunities for bilateral with Karnataka and Thai trade. And also Dr. Ganesh Kumar has come from Guyana, South America. We will also develop on various things, and India has bilateral trade with Guyana, also South America. And I think more you can learn and hear from them itself. So I don't like to much take about what's the economic conditions and everything. And also welcome Miss Kavitha who has come and also is going to be talk about the bilateral trade and economic situations and opportunities and new innovative and new markets for all of us from Israel. So I extend warm welcome to all these distinguished guests, resource persons, and welcome all of you, and I would not like to take much time, and this is the first of its beginning of this kind of inviting the trade offices and make the opportunity for each one of us, because together we can improve upon the economic activity between the countries of all the 5 countries, and we can contribute for the state and national economy. Thank you and welcome you all.
Thank you, sir. I call upon the dignitaries for lighting the lamp. Now I would like to request our President Sir to kindly present a token of appreciation to the guests on the dais.
शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय
would like to request our President Sir to kindly present a token of appreciation to the guests on the dais. Philip Louis Sir, Bangera Sir, please join us on the dais, please. Can we have a huge applause, please? Mr. Gopi, Shankar sir. Suresh Babu sir and Suresh sir, please. Mr. Tanapat Sangaroon. Dr. Ganesh. Can we have Vivek Talamso? I welcome Ms. Uma Reddy, Chairperson, International Affairs Committee, to give introductory remarks.
Thank you, Rakshita. Our guest and keynote speaker for this evening, Ms. Michelle Wade, the Commissioner to South State Government of Victoria, Australia. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am. Our trade colleagues from the various consulates, Mr. Gopi Shankar, the Director Trade and Industry, State Government of Victoria, Australia. Mr. Tanapat Sangaroon, Vice Consul for Commercial Affairs, Thai Trade Center. Dr. Ganesh, Shivkumar, Director, Dr. Ganesh Polyclinic, Guyana, South America. Ms. Kavitha, the Trade Officer from Ministry of Economy and Industry, Foreign Trade Administration, Israel Consulate General of Israel. And all my office bearers, Mr. I.S. Prasad, the President of FKCCI, the Senior Vice President, the Vice President will be joining us soon. Past Presidents of FKCCI, Ms. Dr. Philip Lewis, Mr. Bangera, Dr. Bangera, Managing Committee members, friends from the various associations, DGFTD, various other organizations who are here, members of FKCCI, ladies and gentlemen, namaskara. It's indeed a pleasure and an honor that we are having this. And I head the International Affairs Committee that was formed under the presidency of Dr. I.S. Prasad. And when we have these, plan of action for the year, the norm is to have what is called the interactive session with the consulars, okay? And we normally do it at the end of the year. And as is needed, warm welcome to our Vice President, Mr. Lahoti, who's just joined us. And so we said, let's do something more different where members can stand to benefit. One is to have this interactive session with the consulars, but how do you disseminate this information much more? So we felt that the advisor to the International Affairs Committee is Mr. K. Lakshman, a past president of FKCCI. He's not able to join us this afternoon for this event, but he said, why don't we have this session at the beginning of the year so that we have more and more interactions with the consuls. And all the more important, with the very large focus of both the central government and the state governments on exports. And exports are becoming more and more important. Not that India needs that, we have enough of our own local domestic market to do with. But then export provides us a huge other opportunities, and as the world gets smaller and smaller, we find that there is a larger need for us to have different markets, diverse markets for our products and services. So historically, Karnataka has been a major exporter of many commodities. We all know spices, which came from many years, cotton, silk, which handicrafts, which has been part of it. But now we have seen a foray into many other products and sectors such as engineering, EV, aerospace. So it opens out many more ideas. I know the back of our heads is the huge chip shortage that is happening in worldwide, and how do we overcome it, the supply chain disruptions that are happening. But then if India needs to achieve the 5 trillion economy, we need to expand our horizons. So exports do play a very, very important role, which influences, of course, economic growth. And that's the reason why we decided that we would have this panel sessions. So you as members can look forward to many such sessions. This is the first of its kind, where we invited speakers from trade consul speakers from 5 countries to be here. Person from Estonia, Mr. Vinod, hasn't been able to join us today. He's traveling, but we do have the government of, Victoria, we have Thailand, we have Israel, and we have Guyana, 4 trade consuls here. And we would like to have it as interactive as possible after the keynote address is over. And we really would look forward to a very an interactive session, look forward to more questions. And it's just the beginning. Most of you are free to ask questions. That's the reason why we've kept it as an interactive session, so that with no specific focus on a specific sector. The reason is that each country represents its own exports and imports, and we as FKCCI, our members include members from all sectors. And it would be impossible for us to talk of a specific sectoral connection. We rather felt that we would start off with 4 countries, and we'd have a country-wide such program. So since we are having this today, we hope to have another 4 countries in the next month and thereon. So that's the beginning of many such events in FKCCI, and we look forward to members making use of this opportunity to interact and to connect directly and take it forward from there. Most importantly, the International Affairs Committee would like to play the facilitating role of being able to support it. We are just an email away, a WhatsApp away. So please feel free to ask us. In fact, just 2 weeks ago, we had the Director of Trade Consul of Thailand here with us, along with her Consul General. And, they came with a specific, specific thought of having an interaction with with FKCCI. And we said, let's take it a bit more further and let's get the members to, share their thoughts. And we did send out a message, and we got about 12 of our members of FKCCI who had specific questions with regard to their business with Thailand. And we were able to, showcase that to the Director of Trade of Thailand. And we have also shared by email an event that is happening in Thailand called ThaiFax. I think Mr. Tanapat would talk more about it, which is happening in May. And there were huge opportunities in a way that members can actually connect. Thanks to opening up of the situation, we are able to have a physical meeting today, and hence we are not having a virtual event. We would definitely have a recording of it posted on the website for those of them who would like to have a look, see it later on. But this time we decided we will move forward by having a physical event. So with these few words, a very warm welcome to all the members here, and we are looking forward to a great evening of interaction. So thank you very much, and a very warm welcome to all. I have the honor and privilege of introducing Ms. Michelle Wade, who is our keynote speaker, and she is the Commissioner to South Asia, State Government of Victoria, Australia. So Michelle Wade is much more a friend to us at FKCCI. I would say above all this that you have. She's been a great friend and a great supporter of entrepreneurship and women entrepreneurship. So thank you very much for accepting our invitation and being here with us today. She just came in from Melbourne yesterday, and she immediately agreed to join us today at FKCCI. So thank you very much. A little bit more, Michelle Wade is a highly experienced international trade official and has held senior diplomatic postings for the Australian government in Italy, Malaysia and Spain. She's done a lot of work in Spain, and she manages the Victorian government operations and promotion of trade and investment across South Asia. Her territory includes 4 of Victoria's top 10 education markets, being India, Sri Lanka, Nepal and Pakistan. She's also responsible for the in-market delivery of Victoria's India trade strategy and a significant program of engagement across business, education, arts, tourism, health, sports and startups. So you've got all the words. During her term as Australian Trade Commissioner to Malaysia, Michelle was team leader for Australian education in ASEAN markets, and under her strategic leadership as Trade Commissioner to Spain, Spain became one of Australia's top 10 ELICOS markets, enabling important diversification in the higher education sector. And what's close to her heart, as she served on the board of Musica Viva Australia from 2013 to 2017, And she has been and this Musica Viva has been one of Australia's major performing arts organizations and the leading provider of music education resources to Australian schools. So very warm welcome to Ms. Michelle Wade, and may I request you to kindly deliver the keynote address. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Just going to lift this up and see where you can hear me okay. It's wonderful to be here. In fact, I think this might be the first live event that I've presented at in about 2 years. So thank you to everyone who came out here today. I also wanted to say, from our perspective, just getting away from our screens and catching up face to face, how much it means and how much there is to be gained. So when my colleague Gopi and I jumped in the lift, there was someone that Gopi knew that we haven't seen for a while. With Uma, my good friend who we've worked with over the previous years in relation to women in manufacturing, you introduced me many years ago to, his name's just gone out of my head, to Ricky Kay. And Ricky Kay's just gone on to win his second Grammy. He's gone on to be a good friend of mine, but not just a good friend of mine. Through our associations and introductions, he's now a sometime lecturer at Monash University in Melbourne. So what I like to think is through every friendship we make at this event, at these sorts of events, opportunities emerge. And I certainly remember a few years ago when I was here for your export awards. I think just as we like to promote our exporters and our opportunities, I really like and have enjoyed to see what's emerged from Karnataka and the great wealth and growth that we see here. It was very interesting also to hear the remarks about the transformation here from, from commodities and into other areas, and that's something I think which we share with Victoria. So I'm going to use a few slides, only 3. This is as much to prompt me. Like I said, it's been a while since I've done a live event before. And not only did I just return from Melbourne yesterday, I also had COVID last week. So we're just trying to see if I've got any sort of memory running out there. But Uma mentioned that I've been formerly a federal government trade official. I also for a while ran the Queensland International Offices for the state government of Queensland. And the great honour that I have in serving Victoria is the deep relationship that we have with India. But also from my perspective, when we're in these state government roles, we get to stay offshore a little bit longer than our federal colleagues, which makes me feel like I get to know you and the market a little bit better. Our office, I think, is without doubt the best trade office I've worked in my career. Gopi knows I'm not just saying that to humour you all, I say it very, very regularly. It's a great team, a mixture of experienced and new people, many with connections back to Victoria. We've got the office here in Bangalore, and I like to keep most of the office in one place, and then a couple of people in Mumbai as well. And we really work closely on trade, investment, education, and those other aspects of deepening the relationship which we spoke about. So I thought, because it's a state, you don't necessarily know what you know about an individual state, what in terms of sort of comparing it to what you might know as a country, but being here with the state of Karnataka and comparing that to Victoria, I thought might be quite useful for you. So Victoria's only relatively small. It's down in that bottom southeast corner of Australia. It's got a population of 6.6 million people, but notably a very high GDP of 350 billion. That's actually more than the total GDP of Karnataka. And with our colleagues from Israel today, I was saying to Gopi in the car on the way over, it's sometimes good to actually step back and compare yourselves, because Israel's about another half as big, as is its GDP. So in many ways, Victoria as a country and by nature of its economy is tracking in quite a similar way to Israel. The economy is larger than Singapore or New Zealand, and you'll know Australia is what we call a rocks and crops economy in a lot of ways. We're actually, with Victoria being only 3% of the landmass and almost a quarter of the GDP, a much more diversified service-based economy in line with where we were talking the transformation in Karnataka is happening. The thing that has gone down in Melbourne in the last couple of years with COVID is our credit rating, but Australia's credit ratings generally remain very high. It's still AA credit rating. Melbourne's regarded as one of the world's most livable cities, and proudly we have Australia's largest Indian diaspora. So we've also got a lot of major corporate headquarters in Melbourne functioning from there, and increasingly a number of big Indian corporates functioning their Asian head offices from there. A strong startup culture, and for me, when I was looking, as I said, it's been a while since I addressed a group, when I looked at this slide and updated it, just as you've seen a massive growth in your unicorn numbers in India, and you're dealing with numbers that we can't even grapple with, we've gone from 5 to 13 unicorns in the last couple of years. So we're also really seeing that dynamic growth in those fast-moving tech industries. We're a medical and life sciences hub, and that has only grown through COVID. We've now been given a great deal of government support to set up mRNA manufacturing, and that's on the back of 40% of all ASX listed biomed companies being in Victoria, and us having the majority of medical research taking place in Victoria. And we're big on retail and e-commerce, and you're going to hear in a little while too where that crosses over with Karnataka and some of the businesses as well. And proudly, a few years ago when we presented this sort of overview, I would have talked about Victoria being the education centre and that we're the magnet for students coming in. But I think there's a lot more than that now. We're not just an EdTech hub, we're like a hub for global education and how that's facilitated. And again, I'll mention a little bit more about that in a moment. But in line with what Dr. Prasad mentioned, hopefully it's not going to flick through all these slides. As I said, I'm a little bit out of practice. In line with what Dr. Prasad mentioned, I think there's some very important things happening in Australia right now that's worth us talking about very openly. So I'm going to talk about the geopolitical influences, the early harvest trade agreement, the pandemic and the impacts, and then a little bit on business successes. So from a geopolitical influence and impact, and what that means for India and Australia, you're no doubt aware that there's a very tense relationship between China and Australia right now. We've had some significant changes to tariffs, and that's really made Australia start to look, ironically, at how they need to diversify. China is our number one export partner, export market. We don't want to lose that position, but we've come to realise that we've put ourselves in a position of risk as well. And I say this with a laugh because it's like it's cyclical. When I was first employed in Europe in 1997, it was on the back of the Asian financial crisis when the government said, we've put too much focus in Asia, we've got to diversify a little bit more. So it's kind of not learning well from our lessons in that regard. One of the biggest challenges I have sometimes with our Victorian exporters is explaining to them that India is not China. Just because it's big, it doesn't mean you say, I've lost this market in China and therefore I'm going to go to India. In fact, there's not a lot of replacement, I think, for products that were going to China. What the greatest opportunity in the change is, in my belief, is for India to be manufacturing goods or parts of products for Australian companies. And from that perspective, I'd say that India needs to position this, and something for you to think about from Karnataka's perspective, and establish a strong reputation as a quality, competitive and reliable manufacturer. And I say that because I don't think the reputation for India doing this sort of work is well known in Australia yet, and it's interesting to have a colleague here from Thailand today, because my view is, from an Australian perspective, Thailand is probably better known in Australia for its capacity and capability in this regard. So I'd say to you, in your work in export promotion, in your work in generating international business, think hard about what you need to do to grow that reputation and to really celebrate the areas of excellence that Karnataka has. We've also got the Quad arrangement that was mentioned before as well, between Australia, India, Japan and the US. Not many people realise that agreement's actually been in place since 2007, and it came about as a result of the groups that formed to support the region after the Indian Ocean tsunami in 2004. So I want to be clear, it's not just a security dialogue, and in fact some of the most significant outcomes that we've seen come out of the Quad are related to the COVID vaccines. I know that the Quad purchased some from India, and Australia helped distribute those into the Pacific, and also facilitating cooperation around emerging technologies and sustainable infrastructure development. So I guess what I'd like to say to you on the Quad is keep an eye on it. It's much more than defence, and I think you'll see a lot more talk and collaboration in that regard. So second of all, the early harvest trade agreement between India and Australia, which was just signed a few weeks ago. This agreement aims to double goods trade in 5 years, so bilateral goods trade to 50 billion, so from 25 billion to 50 billion. And from a goods perspective, the majority of things in there are sheep meat, resources, wool, horticulture, wine, pharmaceutical products and medical devices. So from our office's perspective, not so much for us to work on. We don't put so much effort into growing commodities because they're so price driven. They will grow on their own and benefit from changes in tariffs and the like. But the benefits to Victoria are likely to be most around sheep, wool, possibly some horticulture, and I would hope pharmaceutical and medical. Wine is one of those things that get brought up with me all the time. I'm Australian, so people, imagine it and are correct in thinking that I don't mind a drop of wine, but from my perspective, the Indian market is so incredibly complicated, so incredibly new in terms of its level of sophistication compared to the Victorian market, that my advice to a lot of our exporters is, despite the concessions, you're probably still better off to look at other markets in the Asia Pacific. And I guess I'm pointing that out to say, just because there's a concession in an agreement doesn't mean, that it's going to be the best opportunity. And in anything we recommend for companies, we have to weigh up the opportunity cost of where else they might go. My colleagues in the federal government might not be very happy with me saying that, but I think sometimes it's just good to step back and take a look at the agreements. From my perspective, the fact that professional services, education, tourism all benefit is going to be of much greater value to the long-term relationship as well and the long-term growth than some of those other products that I've mentioned. One of the big wins for us, and it's a big win right now because of the tightness of mobility and employment around the world, is that students can now stay or will be able to stay 4 years after graduation, unique to India. And that's, I think, also a demonstration of how well regarded the Indian students are in Australia and what significant employees they've become. One of the interesting things, again, that I think I'll keep an eye on with the FTA, and I think is hopefully cleverly negotiated, is something called Most Favoured Nation status. So there's some work that basically applies to a range of services sectors, which means that, India's new to free trade agreements. It has been hard and long to negotiate, but we know they're negotiating with other countries. So essentially, and just so that you know this is the case, if the UK comes in and negotiates a better agreement in services, in some areas of services sectors, then those agreements will apply to Australian companies. So if you're negotiating in some of the services sectors with an Australian company, but you're worried that your position might be usurped if UK gets a better agreement, that's not the case. Because, so it's some of those things that are really between the lines that you have to be aware of, and that's certainly something that we'll be keeping an eye on. So, you know, if you like, more than the outcomes of this early harvest, I'll be looking equally closely to UK's negotiations, because I'm particularly interested in the outcomes that the UK might get for education, engineering, architecture, R&D and tourism and travel. So that's sort of the dark art of looking at a trade agreement, that you're not just looking at your own, you're looking at what you've negotiated that might trickle through other trade agreements. So I'm a little bit breathless. I don't know if it's the anxiety of not talking for a while or this COVID that I had, but let's talk now about the pandemic and the recovery and the outlook for business between Australia and India. So if the pandemic proved anything to Australia, it was how significant India is. It proved to us how significant it is as a visitor, as a source of qualified employment. And I think there were parts of Victoria that almost shut up when we lost a lot of those people. One of the great privileges that I had when I was back in Australia during COVID was that I ran a $45 million package for international students stuck in Australia. And most of our Indian students actually stayed, and I was proud that that was the most significant assistance given by any government in Australia. And most of our enrolled students have now returned as well. But the most important thing for me is sitting all of the aircraft on the ground for a while just enabled the airlines to have a complete reset. For years I had been knocking on the airlines' doors here and in Australia saying the market is chronically underserviced, we don't have enough direct flights, and trade follows flights, connectivity drives business. So what's happened since the pandemic is we went from 3 direct flights from Delhi to Melbourne per week to 10. Qantas returned to the market after 10 years away, and they've also announced direct flights from Sydney to Bangalore starting in September. That for Karnataka, whilst I would have dearly loved, trust me, for those flights to have gone Melbourne to Bangalore, convincing the market that the future and the need for direct flights is here in Bangalore and that it's a better destination than Mumbai was something we were continuously putting out to the airlines. So the recognition of that, and the tourist officers saying to me, actually when we do go through the statistics, you're right, it is about that growth in business. So that's a real show of support between Australia and Karnataka. We will benefit, but I'm also really hoping that in a year or two's time we'll get a direct flight to Bangalore as well. You might have heard through the pandemic that Victoria was very much locked down. We wear it like a badge of honour, but in actual fact, there's many definitions of what lockdowns look like, and I think Australia was reminded of that over the last few weeks as we watch what's happening in Shanghai. But it also meant that we've got one of the highest vaccination rates in the world, and we've just returned to our reputation of hosting major events. So we had the Australian Open Tennis, which was largely to a domestic audience earlier this year, but with the Grand Prix that was just hosted 2 weeks ago, the largest crowds ever, over 400,000 people attended the Grand Prix. And of course, it wouldn't be right if I didn't mention the T20 happening in Australia in October, November. So of course the MCG hosts the final on 13th of November, but my colleagues tell me that other opening match that we host on 23rd of October between India and Pakistan is equally important. And can I say the tickets to that match sold out in about 5 minutes? The other day I was with the T20 in Melbourne and I said, can you just tell me about the hospitality packages? Like, is there anything left? And they went, yeah, you can go out and sell the hospitality packages. I said, just check first. And those are very close to sold out as well. So it's going to be an immense success. So just finally, I'm going to talk about the outlook for business, but I'm going to talk to you about it by just flashing up a whole bunch of company logos to show you, again, what you might not necessarily think about with Victoria, the amount of interaction that we have. So this is Victorian investment between India and Victorian investment. And the main thing for me is how much this slide has changed since 2017. If there was something that I could show that related the transformation in the way Australia thinks of India and the sort of work that we do, it's this slide. Now, when I sometimes see other colleagues presenting slides like this, they're pictures of companies that are trading. These are not companies that are trading. Well, they are, because they're doing global business. But these are Victorian companies with really significant presences in India. And it was this sort of slide, and it's this sort of information, and particularly that bottom third about the companies that are in Karnataka, which really drove those conversations about the airlines. But I also just want to talk with you a little bit about the sorts of companies they are, because as we mentioned, you know, we, like you, are transforming this relationship from being a commodities-driven relationship to something much more sophisticated. So in tech and retail tech and fintech, we've got the likes of ANZ, Telstra, CAS Services, Atra, Bunnings and Toll. I'm a really scary person to sit next to on a plane. I only met the people from Atra the other night when I was sitting on the plane and had a chat, but that's quite a significant fintech company. But Telstra, to give you an example, they're not doing their call centre work here in India. They're doing their development, particularly of some of their payment systems here, as well as some of their tech development. Since 2018 or 2019, they've now got an office in Bangalore of over 500 people, Pune about 400, Hyderabad about 300 or 400 as well. That's the sort of growth we're seeing from Australia and from Victoria coming into India. Toll, again, I'm catching up with these companies every other week. When I was in Melbourne, mentioned to me that they've got about 400 people in Pune doing their tech development. We have to recognise as Australia that we will not be able to afford the sort of tech development to all be homegrown, but what we like for it to be is collaborative, to maintain tech offices in Australia that work very closely with the outposts that these companies invest in India. I mentioned earlier about education, that it's no longer just about the student flows, it's about what Victoria's learnt from that with, as a global provider. So there's two companies, IDP and Adventus. So you might know, if any of you have sent children overseas to study, IDP is an education agent, and they now own IELTS, the testing agency. They're actually a spin-off of a government company in Australia, but one of the great performers on our stock market. IDP's actually established its tech development in Chennai with about 400 people. That was actually making me a bit nervous, because I don't like to see any single company dominate an industry, and I was thinking, what's this going to do to student recruitment with the sort of tech that they were showing me that they were doing. But then when I was in Australia last, I met Adventus. So through the knowledge that we've grown in education services, another homegrown but global provider of education recruitment online as a provider. So really amazing for us to have two companies like that from Victoria, and both doing a good deal of their tech work here, IDP in Chennai and Adventus in Noida. We've got factories in India, so I mentioned that Made in India sort of relationship that I'd really like you to explore and start thinking about for Karnataka. So Warwick doing woolen mills, Kookaburra cricket balls, Blue Scope with metal fabrication, and Amcor doing packaging. But more exciting is companies doing some of the work in infrastructure. So one of the projects that we're most proud of, and that Gopi was deeply involved with, was Rubicon Water. And the reason we're proud of this is it was an immense project. It had to be developed and delivered during COVID. So if any time there was an example of good cooperation between a company and Karnataka, this was it. So This company, in joint venture with another company from India, installed 800 kilometres of irrigation pipe and 3,000 automated gates, remote censored gates, a really high-tech project that runs up around Humpy. I haven't been up to visit it yet, but a real demonstration of the sort of infrastructure that can and should be delivered in India. In addition, we're doing a great deal of work on your pollution control monitoring with Aquam Ecotech. AccuSensors, not sure if you've got them down here, I think they're certainly in Chennai and up in Maharashtra, does the speed camera monitoring. If you're using your mobile phone or if you're speeding, it's actually a Victorian company that will take the photo of you and send that off to the police. I've been up and seen all of those photos being produced out of Pune, and it's quite an exciting place. Australian turntables, it's not about records, it's actually for the mining industry but also real estate, where you can park a vehicle and turn it around, even a heavy vehicle, and just drives efficiency in the mining industry as well as we said, in high-end real estate. And then we've got consumer-facing brands like Swiss Wellness, one of our great Australian vitamin supplements brands, entered just before the pandemic. What a fine time to enter, just as everyone started to focus on their health, and they're using India as their base for other markets in the region. Luxury Escapes, a tourism business well known to us for packaged holidays, also sells well in the Indian market. And what some of you might not know is Unibic, the biscuit brand, actually originated out of Victoria, still has Victorian investment, and those people really saved a failing Victorian company by bringing it and its recipes up to India, establishing factories just out of Bangalore, and that's become the company that it is today, much better known here in India than it is in Australia. So I hope that gives you sort of a little bit of an overview on our economy, the levers that strong people-to-people links grow, some of the thoughts on the pandemic, the trade agreement, and the geopolitical relationship, and why Australia is particularly interested right now. So I hope for you this has helped you consider the opportunities to manufacture, the opportunities to collaborate on technologies and services. And please, if there's other business to be done, reach out to myself or to Gopi. And I assure you this is a really exciting time in our trade relationship and our relationship with Karnataka, and we look forward to progressing that further. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I welcome our Shri B.V. Gopal Reddy sir, Senior Vice President FKCCI, Shri Ramesh Chandra Lavoti, Vice President FKCCI. Due to some urgent meeting, President wants to leave the meeting. Thank you for joining us, sir. Now I would like to request Ms. Bhagya Lakshmi, Assistant Secretary, FKCCI, to introduce panelists for the day.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to introduce panelists for the panel discussion. Mr. Gopi Shankar, Director, Trade and Industry, Victorian Government, Trade and Investment Office, Bengaluru. He has over 20 years of experience in international trade development. He also leads a trade team at the Victorian Government Trade and Investment Office since 2006 and works on multiple sectors like food, beverage, ICT, health sector, etc. Prior to joining the Victorian Government, he has worked for the UK Trade and Investment as the Senior Trade and Investment. Thank you for joining us, sir. Mr. Tanapat Sangaroon, Vice Consul, the Ministry of Commerce of Thailand, Thai Trade Center, Mumbai. The Thai Trade Center is a service center for both Thai and Indian businessmen to set up and facilitate trade between each other as well as outward investment from Thailand to India. Thank you for joining us, sir. Dr. Ganesh Shivkumar, Director, Dr. Ganesh Polyclinic, Guyana, South America as a profession by doctor. He has served as superintendent to BEL medical establishments. He has also served at Sanjay Gandhi Hospital and Manipal Hospital, Bangalore by Stellar Consultants. Later trained in trauma care, City Hospital, West Midland, UK, etc. His latest venture is the platform and portal for trade and commerce from India, Southeast Asia to Guyana and the CARICOM. Thank you for joining us, sir. Ms. Kavitha S., Trade Officer, Ministry of Economy and Industry, Foreign Trade Administration, Israel Consulate General of Israel. As part of this position, responsible for promoting Israel exports, attracting foreign investment and strengthening economic ties between Israel and the states of southern India. Thank you for joining us, ma'am. May I request our chairperson, Ms. Uma Reddy, ma'am, to be a moderator for this session. Thank you all.
Thank you, Bhagya. Without much ado, we have already had the introduction. So the format for this panel is, we have the topic, a world of diverse opportunities and business connections. So that's what this panel is. We have all our panelists here, whom our Secretary Bhagya has introduced. And I will first request each of the panelists to kind of introduce themselves and the business opportunities. You know, as far as they're concerned, they're the representative of their country here. So we are then talking about bilateral trade. It's always exports and imports and not just exports, and many of us as entrepreneurs have both imports and exports. So I think it is but to have that thought first. And thereafter, we will keep it interactive. So it's just the first round of questions that I will ask each of the panelists, so that it sets the tone for the panel discussion, and we keep a larger portion of the time for interaction and questions from the entrepreneurs and the audience here. So I will start because there has been a continuity. We had Michelle Wade talk about the opportunities and the trade that has happened thanks to the pandemic from Australia, from Victoria in specific. And she also mentioned, and I actually would like to draw attention to that many of us after the pandemic, we thought China has been the manufacturing hub, and very quickly it would be India with the situation after the pandemic. But it didn't really happen. It's kind of got distributed in many places. And in addition, we've also have bottlenecks in supply chains. So what kind of opportunities and what needs to be done to improve that bilateral trade between Australia and India? So this question to Dr. Gopi.
Thanks, Uma, and thanks to all of you. Thanks to FKCCI for giving this platform. Just to kind of very briefly answer what Uma asked, what needs to be done, we've just done it 3 weeks back. You, of course, have read of the FTA. It's in fact, what is interesting is the FTA kind of eases imports. 91% of India's exports to Australia have got either duty concessions or duties completely eliminated, and 86% of Australia's exports to India have been, have got some concession or duties eliminated. So that's a huge step. I mean, it's in fact, even for people within the government setup, this did come as a surprise because the FTA went far beyond what we had expected. And this is just to think, it's an interim FTA. It's not even the full FTA. As the interim FTA is, ratified by both the countries, it's implemented, the duty cuts are rolled out. The two countries will sit down and then discuss the final FTA, which, would be even better than this. So the fact that both the countries in the last couple of years, despite the pandemic, have taken this quantum leap towards, closer engagement, the sheer number of summits that the two prime ministers have had in the last 2 years, the pandemic has not really come in the way. They've actually moved to virtual summits. And despite the pandemic, ministers traveling from both the countries to negotiate. This FTA has been a great step. And we do believe that this would be the beginning of what could be, we are actually in a very fortunate space. We've just signed what seems to be a great agreement. And the future looks very promising. The next 5 years, the trade, which has stagnated at around $20-25 billion for a long time, is expected to double. So it's a great time to be in the India-Australia space, and Victoria has always been in the forefront of engagement. we are a great, if you look at international engagement, all Australian states have international representation. In fact, if you look at Bangalore, we have other states that have a representation. But Victoria has always been in the forefront. If you take the number of international offices that Victoria has vis-a-vis other states, we are far ahead. Even within India, we are the Victorian office between Bangalore and Mumbai is actually the largest sub-national office for any state government in India, be it Australian states or Canadian provinces. So talking about what needs to be done, we are here already. We've been doing this for the last 15 years. All the companies that Michelle showed there have worked with us, had some level of engagement with us when it comes to setting up in India. And likewise, most of the investment in Victoria has actually come from Karnataka, from Bangalore-based IT companies. And practically all those companies have worked with the Victorian government to actually set up their base in Victoria. So here we are in the government facilitating trade and investment linkages between the two countries, and more specifically with the states. Karnataka is very similar to Victoria and Karnataka, and that's one of the reasons why, unlike a lot of other countries, we didn't go to Delhi or Bombay. We actually set up our first main office in Bangalore, and our commissioner is actually based in Bangalore, because both economies are very similar. Victoria, unlike other Australian states, is not a mining state. It's more of a knowledge economy. 80% of the GDP comes from services, of which predominantly education, healthcare, tourism. It's very similar to Karnataka. And likewise, Melbourne contributes 80% of Victoria's GDP. Likewise, Bangalore contributes 70% of Karnataka's GDP. And Karnataka, though, has a manufacturing and agricultural base. Most of the industry is actually service industry here. We are huge, tech exporters. So the two states have a very similar economic profile, and that's the reason we actually set up here. So here we are trying to promote, trade and investment. It's been a good journey. Here to kind of, work with you to take your business to Australia. And
this population is so small, they don't have so much of a security and defense thing to go and look at all these things. Now, logging is very big. They got one of the top-notch quality timber in the world. If I can mention a few, green heart, purple heart, bullet wood, and they get another thing called snakewood. All these wood finds its way here through China, because the Chinese ships buy the logs, and on the ship these things are cut, finished, and sold to India and Malaysia and everywhere. So we don't have marble that were part of the world. Italian marbles are very expensive so marble and granite are a very big thing which Karnataka can bring there. Right? Because now there is booming expat community. Because of the oil, the population is building up, and infrastructure is bringing up in a very, very big way. They don't have very big bridges, they have floating bridges. They don't have proper road infrastructure, because the terrain is totally different. It's not like making a road in Guyana, in Bangalore or anywhere in South India or North India. Their geographic is different. So they know bridges, there are a lot of rivers and rivulets. So these things are very important. So anybody who's interested, just make a request with the High Commission. You can even write to the High Commission of India in Guyana, in Georgetown. Or I can be selfish here, please contact me too. It's on a private level. I will provide you bisibele bath and upittu for morning breakfast when you land there. No, there is a lot. Education. We have 3, every year since 2005, I was assistant professor in one of the offshore medical schools. Every 5 years they give a license. And we have 400 students in a university called Takshila Medical University, run by Indian people. And it's associated with the University of Nicaragua, Central University, but they still call it an offshore university. There are 400 South Indian and North Indian students studying in Takshila medicine. So education is the next thing. You can open. There is no hotel management courses. And now, presently, as I'm talking, there are about 8 international hotels coming in. We had only the Marriott. We have the Sheraton, the Hyatt, you name the groups, all are coming in now. So such big is the demand. If a big hoteling chain can see that, I think all of you can see that. Good?
Thank you, Dr. Ganesh. And Gopi, you want to add something, because he had asked about Australia.
What we'll do is, after this, we'll just kind of, connect offline. I'd like to understand what your business is and, how we can assist. After this, I'll touch base with you. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Satish. I run a export-import platform called Navatize. we are looking to support over 100,000 exporters from India explore the international markets. While there is very well-known opportunities and all with the rest of the Thai, Israel and Australia, my primary question would be for the Guyana. What would you suggest? Would you suggest an exporter to look only towards Guyana and export, to identify products and opportunities in Guyana alone? Or would you suggest them to look out opportunities for all the CARICOM, bring the opportunity, bring the exports to Guyana, create a hub in Guyana, and then re-export to the rest of the CARICOM countries? Would you think that is then that's a better opportunity or an activity, or is it concentrate only on Guyana?
This is what I call a nirvana question. I attain nirvana here. You know, this is what I've been looking for, and even in fact in my biography, I think the CV I would mention, you know, platforming and portal. Now what you're doing is, when you coming to Guyana, Guyana is an independent small 600,000. Now you look at a bigger picture, so your feasibility should be for the CARICOM, because your main laws you're going to deal with, trade laws, are going to WTO, whatever WTO prescribes under CARICOM, because it's a regional. You got to know the culture and the regional policies. So it is very, very imperative that you use those guidelines, look as a Caribbean market, the whole Caribbean market, and because Guyana is the biggest hub now, in fact, I bought a piece of property and the deep sea harbor is coming up right on top of North America. So what's going to practically happen? 30 years ago, the guy who owned the thing, came to Guyana and had a meeting to build a road from Guyana to Brazil. And they would collect the toll for 25 years, and all the vehicles in Guyana should be Ford. The Guyana president didn't agree to that. You understand? Because right now what happens, you think of this major route, how the South American products going to North America, or for both ways, Atlantic going up, right? From the Pacific and the Atlantic. Now that's through the Suez Canal. Now, if they have to come by ship, they all have to come by ship. If there's a land route, Guyana is going to be the biggest hub because of the deep sea harbor coming up right there. And whatever kind of business you're doing into North America, you have a piece of cake. They haven't even written up or signed up a contract for the port authorities or anybody to run the port. And in one of my meetings I'm going to be having with the Adani group soon. You know, that's what, but they are already, in fact, Kapil Dev was there with 5 people with the Patel groups and all these people who want to come in there, and one of them was one of the port authorities, the port management people. So that is opening too. So going back to your question, think of the bigger picture, CARICOM, and don't forget Guyana is a dual part. It stays, it's a part of South America. So they are in the association for South America too. And you have an opening down south into Latin America in a very big way. And you already, as Indians, you have a fantastic relation with Brazil. So you're hitting South America from the bottom and the top. And when you come to the top, visit me. Good? Thanks.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Amarnath. I'm into something like the wellness products in the nutraceutical area. So I'm looking at the opportunity of seeing what type of collaboration that we can possibly do for us to supply the many formulations that we have managed to make. And they're basically completely made of plant-based nutrition. And frankly speaking, they're all from the Indian Rigveda to Ayurveda and Ayurveda to the nutraceutical extracts that we have managed to do with all the types of herbs that we have got over here. They're totally plant-based, and we have, as of now, about 30 products. That is one part of my business enterprise. I'm also a writer. I'm also a person who has published, self-published, something known as the Leo and Capri, the graphic novels based upon the Indian traditional writings. They're all in right now, and I'm also looking at the possibility of getting into many countries to find a publisher and take this these books across to the world. which basically does not talk about anything to do with politics, religion. It only talks about inclusiveness, sustainability, environmental aspects of what is required for the people to understand and to explore it further as a basic foundation. So these are the two things which I've come here for, and I'm looking forward to getting some type of a link and opportunity for this, which I've been speaking to Mrs. Umar Reddy, and she has been very encouraging, and let me see how it can go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Amarnath. I think we did share your information with the Thai trade officer when she was here, and because he was interested in his food products. And at that point of time, the focus was your exhibition of Thai Facts that was happening in May. So I did suggest to them, but all other panelists are welcome to respond, but I request Mr. Tanapat to first share his thoughts.
Yes, Thai Facts, Thai Food Expo, is one of the biggest events in Asia. Many innovative and creative food from not only Thailand but also Eastern Asian, Oceania, even India, they join this event. So you could share and meet one-stop event in this expo. So I would recommend you to visit this expo. It will be organized every year in May, mid of May. Yes. Apart from Thai Fair, which is one of the potential products that we could exchange, the second one is style product. I mean the lifestyle products. There's fashionable garments, footwear, accessories, skincare. These also are the products that I think we have markets for each other to exchange, because we both have spice herbal products, Ayurveda and Thai spa. We share some strengths and complementarities that we could share. And the third event is Jewelry in September, around the mid of September every year. Both Thai and Indian company joining and meeting. Many Indian companies are there in Thailand. Many diaspora are there, and they are actually the active exporter from Thailand back to home country India to create further value and export from India itself. So we are like supply chain, as I said. And the fourth one is Wedding Expo. It's about wedding products and services, medical services for bride and groom. And these are for, and the last one is Logistic Expo in August every year. So this is the key event that you could visit. How many of you have visited Thailand? Okay, yes. Thailand is like our backyard, that we have to visit a little bit. Yes. But if we cannot find a chance to visit Thailand or even any expo, I think today you could go back and just now you could visit the website thaitrade.com. Thaitrade.com. It's a Ministry of Commerce website that we check the background of companies, registration and financial background, and we put it on website in many categories. So you could find them, their products and their contact numbers just today. Another website is Thai Trade Fair, thaitradefair.com. Thai Trade Fair.com. Many exhibitors that have participated in the expo are listed in this website, Thai Trade Fair. So you don't need to go to Thailand. Actually, just visit these two websites. And the third one is if you can write it, DBD Warehouse, the Department of Business Development, Department of Business Development, DBD Warehouse, Thailand. You could find it in Google. It is the Islamic Ministry of Corporate Affairs in India, MCA. You could check their background, their authenticity. And some of them also shows their email and financial statement that they submit to the Ministry of Commerce last year. So you could find their business background. So this is the three main that you could find: exhibitors, genuine exporter, importer also, and you could check their background through this platform. And the fourth one, I would recommend you to visit Indian government website, Ministry of Commerce website is Trade Portal, Indian Trade Portal. Have you visited Indian Trade Portal? So you could check the tariff in your own business, the SS code, the harmonized code of your products. You could find the tariff rate and the barriers or the conditions that you have to do your homework before you are going further to meet them. So when you are ready to go to Thailand, you have your information, some initial contact you have been developed with them, and then you visit them, apart from your touristic activities.
Like a virtual trade fair before we go there.
Yes.
So thank you. You should have asked the question, how many of us have gone for tourism or for the trade fairs? Then, yes. But, even the Thai when we sent out the mailer, if you had a look, they were, the consulate was actually supporting those who were seriously interested in participating. They were even taking care of the accommodation at for the trade fair, for the participating delegates. Of course, we have organizations like VTPC who do support MSMEs' participation in trade fairs abroad, but this was an additional benefit. So I'll also ask Dr. Ganesh from Guyana, what's the opportunity for food products, organic and green food products in Guyana?
Thanks. You see, when you think of food for starvation is different. Food for sustainability is different. Exotic food is different. So where do you fit in yourself? That is very important. Either you want to send, Guyana does not have ragi. People in that part of the world don't know about ragi. And the number of diabetics there is enormous. So that is next on my agenda. I want to cultivate ragi in Guyana.
Or export ragi.
You see, you can't go in a country and take over. You'll become like the British Raj. So yes, export is one of the first thing. That is how you sensitize a market. You create. Oh, ragi dealer is your vice president, yes. And the novelty of ragi is here. Look at this. You see, Guyana, and if you see Fiji, Jamaica, Guyana, and Suriname, and Trinidad and Tobago. This is where the British took the Indians for indentured labourship. And most of these people from UP, Uttar Pradesh. And these people use something called satwa. They grind the 7 grains. That is what, and every year when I've been visiting since 2001, I see these products more coming up. We never had that in Bangalore in any market. Satwa was never there. And now you can find different companies making satwa. And ragi flour, I still remember first when it was introduced in the PEL canteen. My father was a chief medical officer then. It was introduced in the PEL canteen for officers and people for diabetics. So it is easy to cultivate. Let me tell you, Guyana, with the 3 rivers, anything grows there. Anything. We have only sun and rain, no other weather. It's either raining or it's very summer. Sun and the rain. No man is hungry in Guyana. There's ample food, ample cultivation. So you can look at that. That is a fantastic thing. You have now when we're coming to exotic food, like you said, Thailand, people know about Thailand already because they are marketed and they have brand products. Thai paste, the red paste and the yellow paste. These are packaged throughout the world. You might find them even on moon. They've done it so well. I think in Bangalore, Oberoi was the first people to bring in a Thai restaurant called Rimnam. Rimnam in Thai means riverbank. And if we had to eat in the 90s, we had to eat Thai food, we used to go to Rimnam. And it's still there. So make your brand, make Karnataka. Ragi Mudde is one of the top-notch things. And you know that the beans which you make or the curry with for the thing, nobody knows about that. They don't know double beans. They don't know plenty vegetables there. So bring the horticulture section in. Now, Guyana, the president was saying he wanted to supply the old CARICOM with food. It was one time called the basket of the Caribbean, basket of food of the Caribbean. They want to revive that status back. And we want to export big time to the USA. So, welcome. Come on, you can bring your feeds, you can bring your fertilizers, you can bring your organic products. Right? These are even mushroom culture. I think somebody from here came and did it there. Same with the Esargata Institute from there. Rice culture, some people come here. They go to Thailand Rice Institute and here. In fact, there was a comment by a Thai rice researcher. He said they all trained in India in the 80s. They say the difference between the Indian rice, cultivation people, the professionals is the Indians sit in the office, the Thai people go in the field. And if you go to any market outside, you find Thai rice because their rice is far superior to any other rice. They don't mill it too much, they don't polish it too much, the nutritive value is high, and they have a market value. People pick it up from the shelves. So how do you add value to your product? That is what you people should be doing here.
Good opportunity for the entrepreneurs in the food processing sector.
Yeah. This is, and people are getting out of this processed food. I know from Bombay during the 90s, from Bangalore, fresh vegetables, a whole plane load of vegetables used to go out. I don't know which country where the destination were. First was vegetable, then was roses. Make it food now. Every 2 weeks, there's a plane from Guyana loaded with greens and goes to Toronto. And the diaspora is so big, they are more than 1 million, and only 600,000 live in Guyana. So like that, you got to look at these volumes of numbers. So that is very, very important. With the Hesargata, the Horticulture Institute, you have plenty things there. Plenty things what's happening, which you can export. Your Coconut Institute, you can export. R&D, whatever you have already can be done. Because all the countries are not like us. We have developed education, R&Ds. India has it all. So you got to look how to go and do it. Don't wait for Delhi and Bombay to do it. No. All these years, when I went to Guyana in 2001, people know India for the Tata bus. And everything else is either from Bombay or from Delhi. Where is Karnataka? Nowhere. We're not seeing it. That is one of my main reasons I come down. Because when I studied, I grew up and studied with, I know if you know J. Alexander, his son, Bangarapa's son, and all of us were colleagues, all were classmates. So I want to establish everything 30 years ago. I want to set back everything now. And I'm going to do it, and please join me. Any questions after this, just leave a note. And there's so many things. If you take Israel now, just the excise for mercenaries. People make a killing money out of just exporting how to exercise. Yes. These are small things. Each country has its own, it's the best stuff they can export. So bring it here. There are a lot of things.
I'll request our past president, Dr. Philip Lewis. He has the mic in his hand. He has a question. Sir, mic. Sir, please sit down.
Hello, yes, thank you. To all the delegates, first of all, I thank them, all of them sitting with us for such a long time, giving valuable information. But one thing is what I was thinking, delegates for holidays, they have gone. But for food, yes, food is now entirely required for the whole world, and most of the world it is different. And now Indian food is also going around all over the world, and people like it also. Especially in Israel, a lot of our Indians are there already, they are working, but they are not working for top jobs, but certain jobs they are there, which we have seen. I am only here doing fish exports. I am a fisherman, so I supply fish to the world, all over. And fish has got good demand and it is running even till today. I am in a coastal place, but here, because by profession I am a doctorate in engineering, so I am doing engineering goods from Bangalore. So I am here in Bangalore. But one thing I am interested in meeting doctor from Guyana and discuss with him also. Australia I had been, so I know what is Australia. Ireland I had been, but the only Israel I have not gone because there was a lot of restrictions earlier. Now they are all clear. But wonderful thing. What meeting you all in the Chamber of Commerce, and I thank our lady who is from Chamber of Commerce who has organized this with the President and Vice President. All of them we thank for doing this, and if you continue this doing, it is good for the entrepreneurs from Chamber of Commerce. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.
If I could just respond to Sir.
Yes.
You see, you already visited these countries. It's your turn to come to our part of the world. Now, it's so nice of the government of Guyana. They give Indians 90-day visa on landing. But how do you land there is a question. You either need to transit in United Kingdom, where you need a visa to come over, one. Or if you have a Schengen visa, you come down. Or you have a US visa, you fly down. It's New York. From New York, it's 5.5 hours. 5 hours. From Miami, it's 3 hours, 40 minutes, right? From UK, it's 9 hours, straight flight. And how do you do that? Some people don't take even visas. They take KLM, they fly to Amsterdam. From Amsterdam, they transit for around 6 or 7 hours. They have KLM coming to Suriname or Suriname Airways, bringing them. And once you land in, so you need a visa for that. So you get it from the Suriname Consulate in Delhi, and you land there. And once you land there, you can freely come into Guyana. You can come either any route. You can fly, swim, walk, any three. You understand? And you're given a welcome with a 90-day visa.
Thank
you can explore your possibilities, and then you can get a work permit. You find somebody like me, you settle down too, sir.
That's great. Yes. There's another question.
Hello. Yeah, good evening. My name is Prashant Dandania, and I represent a company called Escon Gensets. We make diesel generating sets. We partner with Mahindra and Mahindra. My question is to Ms. Wade and Mr. Shankar. We have a mandate from Mahindra to explore exporting diesel gensets to Australia. And how can we get some help in assessing that market? And once we have done that, how can we get help to find some partners in Melbourne or Victoria to take that land forward? And do you see an opportunity, given the state of affairs between China and Australia right now, do you see an opportunity for an Indian product in the diesel genset market in Australia?
Well, again, I'll touch base with you. I'll speak to you offline. But diesel gensets, I'm curious because is there a market? I mean, have you done the market mapping or landscape mapping? Because I'm kind of thinking it's more of a backup. And Australia, it's very reliable power supply. There is typically no need for a backup. So that's something that I'd like to kind of understand from you. It's interesting that you work with Mahindra. Mahindra's got very, very strong, linkages with Australia as well as, with Victoria. We'll definitely discuss offline on what we can, do. I'm keen to kind of map the market and see if there's an opportunity. In fact, Australia is actually transitioning towards more renewables rather than diesel. So let's kind of discuss that.
If we have any questions, can we all take it together so that we'd like to close? We're 10 minutes beyond schedule already.
Hello.
So any other questions?
One second.
Please go ahead.
I am Ramesh. I am associating with a company which we are manufacturing all automobile spares, infrastructure spares for the agriculture and spices also we are dealing. We wanted to have a joint venture or any setup which you can create. This is common to everyone in the dais. So how far you can support us?
We start from Kavitha. Kavitha, just a second if you don't mind. Are there any more questions? So we could take them all. Vivek, so that you could answer both. Or more. Yeah, Vivek.
Yeah, actually my question was to Kavitha. See, we have been a manufacturing setup for about 48 years now. And we've been serving for the Indian markets only primarily. I mean, we have done a little bit of exports, but yes, we would want to get into the defense field. I know Israel is strong in that. And with Indian companies opening up to the private sector where we can manufacture defense components, we would like to collaborate with Israel for a knowledge transfer per se. So is there a door we can open where we could collaborate and then come out with manufacturing setups for defense sector, for Indian markets as well as for the Israel markets per se?
Thank you, Vivek. Any other questions from the audience? Okay, so over to you.
Thanks for that question. First of all, the consulate doesn't closely work on the defense related. We have SIBAT in Delhi. I can definitely connect you. Please write to me and we can establish a connect. Okay, and to answer to the question on, you said you're an automotive component manufacturer, which is used in agriculture, right?
Mr. Ramesh.
And you wanted a market. I'm sorry, I couldn't get your question clearly.
Can you repeat your question? Yeah, the mic is.
It is infrastructure for the agriculture. We can manufacture the spares. And also we are dealing with the spices also. And we can manufacture the aerospace parts also. We have infrastructure for tooling as well as the manufacturing of the, it is a highly precise engineering products. Since we incorporated in the year 1988.
So are you looking for a partner, like a Make in India concept, or what's your requirement?
Yeah, we can do that.
You're looking for somebody who can...
Even direct export also we can do it.
Or you're looking at export?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
for exports, I think there were a couple of questions here. We have the Indian Embassy in Israel.
Okay.
We'll try and connect you with them. You can write to the team out here with FKCCI team, and we can establish a connect for any export related product. I heard something on the pharmacy side also. In fact, Israel does believe in Himalaya products, and they are very well there. And they have a lot of units, I think, being purchased from India, and they do have some farmers established there. I think you can either go through them or through the Indian Embassy that's in Israel. So we'll try and establish a connect.
Thank you. Thank you. Actually, to all the delegates here, if you have any questions, please feel free to send us an email to the international business email ID that you've been receiving our mailers from. And we will then forward your mail to the respective country consulars or trade officers, and we'll put you in CC so that you can take it forward from there. Okay?
Can I just respond to this three people?
Sure.
The diesel engine gentlemen, you see most of the like the Australian gentleman already saying that power is not an issue there, right? People are going solar too. right? So if you are in that industry, I would say countries like Guyana, again, I would bring it there. We don't have, because of the vast space, you know, the area geographically, and life is only on the coastal areas, and it's below sea level, we get a lot of flooding. Gensets from India come there, right? Now you got to be making a genset which is so silent I can sleep, right? You got to be making a genset which can, durability is going to be excellent in the tropical, you know, it can withstand wear and tear, right? And you got to find a shipping route which is going to be cheap for you. You do that, I'll buy all your gensets. It's reality. 2, right? Second, gentlemen, with agro products. You can make spares only when you know what you're going to make for. So you got to team up with a company like HMT tractors, some other tractors, because we get John Deere, we get all the top American brands. And those brands, like Toyota cars, we get spares for Toyota cars, made in China, made in Japan, you know, like that. So you got to first look at what main product is running and then manufacture for that product. You understand? So you got to, if it's like, if you're buying shares for Coca-Cola, you can't go buy it because everything is sold. So you go to buy shares for the paint Coca-Cola is printed on. The can company which makes the cans for Coca-Cola. You know, that's called the Zulu principle in stock investments. Like that, you got to look, you particularly with the agri thing which spares. Now spices, you see in most part of the world now, a lot of Indians are living. And spices have already been there where the British Raj has been there. And like if you go to the diaspora, like I told you, Jamaica, Fiji and these places, they get their spices. There's already a spice route. It's very privately done. Look at Pakistan. Pakistan has a company called Shan, like MTR or MDH or, you know, the masala thing. They have Shan, and Shan is there all over North America. Anything, biryani, you have Hyderabadi biryani, Malay biryani, Bombay biryani, everything you get packs. And me and my wife, what we do is, because things are very expensive in Guyana, we go to Florida or New York. We go to 2 stores. One is called Apna Bazaar, another one is called Patel Brothers. Google these 2. They bring in all the products. So I buy a barrel for $75, right, which is this big, about 5 feet, and we fill up this barrel 300 pounds, and we ship it from Florida to Guyana as 2 weeks. And my grocery, which I'm going to buy there from Apna Bazaar, would cost me about 2,000, less than a 2,000 US. So that exchequer goes to America. So let's move the whole business, ship it down. Let's bring container down into the Caribbean and start a distribution from there. Look at it that way, and it makes more sense. So the exchequer goes straight to Guyana. So you have a volume of foreign exchange moving. The commerce is happening between India and Guyana, India and the Caribbean. Same thing is pharmaceuticals and things. So we address spice, we address these 3 things. Okay, and aerospace. Now aerospace, you'll be thinking of which are the big boys in aerospace. Lockheed Martin, Boeing. And now you see you have a collaboration with the Dornier, you're making your passenger planes. Now these are very, very precision items, and these are all next to defense contracts. Aerospace is next to defense contracts. So you have to be delicate. Please do due diligence in doing your approvals, your channels of how you move. You understand? Then the third gentleman with manufacturing 28 years or something, who wants to get into the defense sector. You were talking of Israel. As Bengalurians, if you are asking this question, I'm a little ashamed. You're the only state which hosts the air show. You know, from HAL airspace, I have been there. I've seen parrot float. ID, in Israel defense industry, is there every year. Go there. Israel defense industry puts out camouflage suit, to survival suit, to laser machines, everything. Go to IDF when you go to the booth, and they welcome you. They have, in those tents, they have a 5-star facility to take you and treat you. Because I had connection at the DRDO, so I used to go there. So I think, there's something, I think you guys lack a cell which does research into these things. And
that's why we are having this facilitating panel, so that we are able to,
Yeah, you need to tap this. This is very, very important. You have so much in your hand. You just need to know regulations. Cargo is there. You can ship anywhere. That's addressing the aerospace, right? In fact, a friend of mine, he manufactures pumps in Odessa in Texas. These pumps draw oil from the ground, not from the ocean, not oil rigging. This is terra on the ground. And each pump he makes is $1.5 million. And Ecuador, Colombia, and everywhere, because of the surge now, they are buying hotcakes. I got the parts done in Bangalore 3 years back for his motor, for his pump, right from Bangalore. And these products were coming out of China, and we cut the market very big from there. And we are proud to say we did it, just 2 of us. I was in Guyana, contacted my friend. We bought the whole thing to Bangalore. We exported the whole thing. So there is a lot you can do. There is a lot. There is no saline. You know saline, what's the give? Saline for patients? There is no saline manufacturing plant in Guyana. It's Caribbean. All your pharmaceuticals are coming, either they smuggle it into the Caribbean, or because the volume is small, no company wants to sign up big volumes. So pharmaceuticals is the next thing you can look at. And pharmaceuticals is the biggest market. A small pharmacy would make nearly about 10,000 US every month. US. And in Guyana, every pharmacist has 2 licenses. He can give 1 license to somebody else, and he can run his own. So these are all loopholes. Let's not look at it. I can at least talk pertaining to Guyana and the CARICOM. More about Guyana than even the CARICOM. We can definitely get into the CARICOM. That's not big.
So on that, thank you, Dr. Ganesh. And on that positive note, that we have huge opportunities in Guyana, and then we have facilitating, organizations, especially the trade officers of the consuls who are supporting. I think all the audience here, you're welcome to send in your mailers with any more specific questions, specific connects that you require to the FKCCI email ID. And as I said, we will send it to the respective trade officers, and of course also Dr. Ganesh, if you specifically want to do business with Guyana, so that he will then connect you to the specific consulate or the honorary consul. And we'll ensure that you're in CC when we are forwarding emails, so that you can take it forward from there. And do keep us informed of any further requirements, and other countries also. Because as I said, today was the first of the series of these 4-5 countries, but we couldn't have the Estonia person come in. But I think Dr. Ganesh pitched in a bit for it. But we plan to do this on a regular basis, so feel free to share your thoughts, suggestions as to how the International Trade Affairs Committee of FKCCI can actually facilitate and see that we all make use of every opportunity that we have, and be part of this world of diverse opportunities and ensure business connections. On that note, I will take this opportunity to thank each and every panelist for sparing your time, for being here with us. Kavitha from the Israel Consulate, her Consul Trade Officer, Mr. Abraham was here, but being a Jewish holiday, he couldn't participate. But thank you, Kavitha, for joining us. Mr. Tanapat, Sangaroon, thank you for coming in all the way from Mumbai. He is really specifically looking at supporting accelerator programs for startup. So thank you for joining us today, and we will continue to stay in touch. A very special thank you to Ms. Michelle Wade, good friend, and a great supporter of enterprises. So really thank you, having come, just flown in from Melbourne, having a COVID attack and then being here. I mean, truly appreciate your enthusiasm and being part of our FKCCI panel today. Thank you, Gopi Shankar. Gopi's been with the Australian Trade Office. I knew him from the UK Trade Office earlier, but he's been a great, if there's anything that I want, he's always a call away, always very supportive, always there, ready to respond to. So thank you, Gopi. And thank you, Dr. Ganesh. I really see the Karnataka and the Kannada in you, and your, to ensure that we as Karnataka citizens do business with Guyana and make use of the opportunity that is there. I mean, it's only when you see that there is an opportunity in a country and you feel connected to your homeland and you say, I really wish our Kannadikas can come and do business in Guyana. So really happy to see that emotion and be able to facilitate. I mean, being a doctor, I really appreciate the fact that you could take time off from your regular professional work and look at how we can encourage more entrepreneurs. So thank you very much. On that note, thank you to all the delegates here who have been with us. Our past president, Dr. Philip Lewis, who sat through the whole program. Dinesh, past president of FKCCI, MC members, and all members of FKCCI. And representatives of other associations who are here today. Thank you very much. I also would like to thank the presence of Dashmi from JETRO, who is also here with us. So thank you all, and over to Rakshita. The Vice President will do the formal vote of thanks.
Good evening to all, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the FKCCI, I stand with my President I.S. Prasad, Senior Vice President Gopal Reddy, and the past President and the Managing Committee. We'll have a series of such meetings in future so that Karnataka entrepreneurs or SMEs and trade can have a look outside beyond Karnataka, so exports. As I also thank all the dignitaries on the stage, especially Ms. Michelle Wade, who have come all the way yesterday from Victoria, and all the dignitaries, Gopi Shankarji, and our Bengaluru boy, you can say, Mr. Ganesh Shankar, who has told you to participate and do business with Guyana, and from Thai Consulate and Israel Consulate, all the trade. I thank you one and all. Please participate. There will be a future series of such meetings in future to have more interaction with the export so that you can make your products well established abroad also. And in the same time, on behalf of FKCCI, I request all the dignitaries to participate in Invest Karnataka. Thank you one and all. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Kindly have snacks which is provided in cafeteria.